Hi, my name is Chloe. They say that God doesn't give big breasts to those girls who are capable of anything more. When I started growing up, at the age of 13, I realized that my breasts grew slowly and not like other girls. And of course, I began to develop complexes. I read a lot of books, magazines, and on the internet about what to do to make my breasts big and beautiful. You understand that boys like big breasts, and clothes look better on them. You can wear beautiful dresses with a low neckline. I was growing, but my breasts were not going to. At first, on the advice of my mother and aunt, I began to consume tons of cabbage because I was told it would help. And when I didn't see any results, I read that it's effective to smear them with different ointments. But that didn't help either. The daily rubbing and the thought that I was deprived of everything by nature never gave me any peace, and maybe played a terrible role in genetics. Why do I have such small breasts? I still wear sports tops. It seems to me that I'm not even a size 1, more like a 0. Chloe, honey, you attach too much importance to such a small problem. What are you implying? You're terrible. You're the right size. Oh, honey, I'm just kidding. Believe me, the size of your breasts does not matter to make you happy. Especially since you're only 15, they'll still grow. Looking at my friends and classmates, I'm starting to doubt it already. Mom tried to make jokes, to comfort and support me, but it did not help. The problem wasn't only in my head. The small breasts, that was the problem. At school, I was teased a lot because of it. They called me flat, a bored, and some people even called me a boy. Well, naturally, because of these stupid jokes, I realized that no boy would want to date a flat girl, especially since eating cabbage all the time made me feel horrible, and rubbing ointments made me stink from a distance. Also, flies were constantly hovering around me. Eventually, I got sick of it all, so I decided to ignore such a feature of mine. By the age of 17, I started wearing baggy clothes and tried not to wear tight blouses. I never went to pool parties and even stopped going to the beach with my parents and friends. And if they could talk me into it, I never wore a swimsuit. Yes, I deprived myself of all these pleasures because my complexes were too great. Later, in college, a guy from the parallel group started hitting on me. Steve was very tall, good-looking, and pretty smart. I heard he dated a lot of girls in college, and all of them were just like that. Tall, pretty, and curvy, if you know what I mean. He started paying attention to me, but he did it weirdly. He was always teasing me, making jokes about everything. I knew they were just jokes until he hit a sore spot. We were sitting on the lawn outside the school when his friend suddenly said that I must be comfortable running because nothing shakes on me. I'm as flat as a stingray. Steve started laughing out loud and kept up the banter. But I got so hurt that I just ran away, crying. The next day, Steve came up to me and started apologizing. Chloe, what are you doing? They were just jokes. You know what, Steve? Go to hell with your jokes. Oh, I get it. You're embarrassed that you have small breasts? That's bullshit. You're beautiful and smart. It's none of your business that I have— Wait, what did you say? I said you're beautiful and smart. I was just speechless. Handsome Steve said I was beautiful and smart. Huh. Like I was going to believe he was telling the truth. Yes, I'm not ugly, but I was well aware that I wasn't his type of girl. After this conversation, Steve started courting me. All the other girls were furious. Of course, I was no match for his exes, especially given my tiny little detail. One day, his good friend Amber came up to me and said she wanted to talk to me about something at the back of the school. She promised to wait there for me after class. I got held up by a teacher, so of course I was late. As I walked up to the patio, I heard Amber talking to one of Steve's friends. She seems like a nice girl, but I don't understand Steve. What does he see in her? Well, she's pretty. I agree, but have you seen her? She's just flat. Our volleyball coach has bigger boobs. Well, maybe they'll grow back. Huh. I'm sure Steve will just play with her and that's it. He'll lose interest in her as soon as she gets naked. They started laughing out loud, and I just ran away so I wouldn't have to hear the rest of that filth. I was so naive. As if the best-looking guy in college would like me. He probably had no idea how much of a plank I am. I cried all night in my room, and I was so angry that nature left me with no shape. I realized that it was time to act. I immediately began to scour the internet, looking for a good surgeon, and I found one. All of his work was performed perfectly, so I made an appointment for a consultation. The next day I went to the clinic. The surgeon examined me, took all the tests, and was ready to appoint the day of surgery. But what do you think? The cost was exorbitant, especially for me, $3,000. Yeah, you can't count on my scholarship. There was no point in asking my parents. Besides, they'd only recently taken out a car loan for my brother. I had already started thinking about different part-time jobs. The idea of even making money illegally popped into my head. Of course, going to jail, even with boobs, was a long shot. I got a few part-time jobs. I filled my time to the brim. Of course, it would be hard to keep up, but it would be worth it. Beauty requires sacrifice. Steve asked me out every day, but I just didn't have time. I even started working nights as a waitress in a bar. According to my calculations, to save enough money, I had to work for a year and save every penny I earned, including my stipend. My parents didn't know what I was doing. At night, I would sneak out the window and go to work, and come back in the morning the same way. I stopped sleeping. I only got 2 to 3 hours a night. I lost a lot of weight, and my face grew gray. Even at school, everyone noticed my unhealthy appearance, but I assured myself it wasn't for forever. When I reached my goal, I could relax. It would only be a year. My mom and dad also became worried. Honey, you look really bad. Did something happen? Mom, everything's fine. I'm just busy with my studies. I have to study for exams. I understand, studies are important, but your health is more important. Don't overburden yourself too much. You need to rest. Okay, ma'am. Steve came up to me in college, and he said he was worried that my complexion wasn't healthy. And how could I be healthy if I was barely sleeping? He took my hands and said that despite my objections, he would love to take me out for a walk. So we skipped school and ate ice cream, and I even managed to nap on his lap in the park. Steve asked a bunch of questions that I wasn't prepared to answer. I brushed him off, as I always do. Chloe, listen, I'm really worried about you. You've become strange, walking gray like a shadow. Are you sure you're okay? Steve, I'm okay. It's a difficult time for me, but soon everything will be all right. Even better than it was. Look, I like you. I'd like to go out with you. But I can see that you're not that into it right now. Uh-huh. Steve, just wait a little longer. You'll like me even more. Finally, the day of the surgery came. I didn't tell anyone I wanted to do it. I was shaking with fear, but I couldn't tell anyone. My stress had reached such a maximum point, I called Steve. He came to the clinic right away. He saw me on the hospital bed, ran over, and gave me a big hug. He began to tell me that he'd warned me that I should have gone to the hospital sooner, said that I'd been looking sick lately, and he was so nice to admonish me. I didn't even want to interrupt him, but I had to. I told him I wasn't there because I was sick. It was because I was getting a breast augmentation. Steve's eyes widened, and then he frowned. I told him about the conversation with Amber I'd overheard, and how they were sure he wasn't serious about me. For some reason, I felt so bitter and started crying nonstop. The doctor came into the room, looked at us, and told us that I wasn't going to have surgery in my condition. Steve started screaming that we were leaving and there would be no surgery. He grabbed my things, pulled me into his arms, and carried me out of the clinic. We rode in the car in silence. Then he pulled out his phone and started calling Amber. Amber, what kind of crap did you say about me to I Chloe? don't know what you're talking about. About the conversation in the back of the school? Oh, so she complained? And I heard she decided to get surgery for you. It's not funny. What the hell were you saying? But it's true. You don't even look at me because I have small breasts. I knew that was why right away.
You're wrong. I've always thought of you as a friend, and I would never look at you even if you were a size 5 breast. Also, I like Chloe. I like everything about her.
He then turned to me and said those 3 cherished words. It was also at that moment that I realized that he loved me for who I was, loved what was inside of me. He also assured me that with smaller breasts, there would be fewer problems in the future, and that I was more beautiful to him than all the busty girls in the world. After that, I never thought about going under the knife. Tell me, guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to like it, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.